What's good, family? This video is going to be about how to address old relationships and how to talk about exes on dates and while you're presenting your experience to someone that you're just getting to know. So I got a question from one of my male followers. I'm going to read it and then we're going to get into this answer. And the question reads, "Hi Kevin, first I want to thank you for opening up your platform to guys and making videos for us as well. Most content for men is geared toward being an alpha piece of shit who doesn't respect women. And as you've said before, a lot of red pill guys don't understand the value of partnership. So what the hell can they tell me? So thanks, bro. Anyways, I recently got out of a long-term relationship and the dating world feels really different now. I'm not sure how to balance sharing my past without dwelling on it. When is the right time to bring up a breakup and how much detail is too much? I also worry about that potential partners might see me as damaged or not ready to move on. How can I show that I've grown and I'm open to new experiences and meeting new people seriously? Dating again feels overwhelming and I could really use some tips on navigating this transition. Thanks, bro." Say less. My wife and I wrote each other multiple times a day for 3 weeks before we even had our first phone call. Paragraph by paragraph, book by book, we got more comfortable with one another. But most people don't put that type of effort into messages anymore. Hell, now you're lucky if you get a full word or a whole sentence back after a few DMs. These days, every dating site has the same issue. Low effort messages, fake profiles, catfishing, models, perverts, gauging attraction off of pictures alone, and hiding the best features behind paywalls. Most dating websites don't give us an opportunity to fully represent who we are or catch a virtual date whenever we feel up to it. In fact, most people never make it to a phone call, they never hear each other's voice or make it to a real date. It just dies in the DMs. But our app is different in that way. On our app, you can get right to the point of online dating, the dating. And right now, it's completely free. I met my soulmate on MySpace in 2008. You can meet your soulmate at the link below. You know, one of the first mistakes most of us make on our dates, especially on our first dates with people, is how we address talking about our exes. I've made this mistake personally. One time I talked about my ex so much, she popped up on the date. I manifested her. Man, it was wild. I understand exactly what you're talking about. So in my personal experience, when I was younger and also in my 8 years of being a dating coach, I can tell you that when you address the exes, especially as you get to know someone else or you have those first few conversations that are really critical to kind of representing who you are and what type of energy you may bring into a woman's life, when you're talking to a woman about what you've been through or your old relationships, and this goes for men and women, but the young gentleman, Mark, appreciate your question, Mark. What you want to do is focus on, and this has to be genuine. And so I want you to sit with yourself before you find yourself on a date. Figure out what you've learned from these old relationships. The question that, when a person's asking, first of all, and don't bring up, period, don't bring up the ex relationships or breakups unless asked. If someone asks you about your old relationship, it's okay to bring up. They're requesting that information. They want to have a conversation about it, but don't bring it up unsolicited. That's one thing that a lot of people do. They just start talking about, oh yeah, and with my ex and this and that, or I like this about you. I hated it with my ex. Don't ever bring up an ex. Don't ever bring up a breakup unless it's in context to a question that you're being asked. That's the first rule, just to create the best impression if you are truly available to someone and ready to move on and you're healed. So there's that. But when you address it, again, after you've sat with yourself, and this has to be genuine, the way to address it is to address it in terms of what you've learned about yourself and how you've learned to move on, grow, and develop despite the experience you've had or despite whatever trauma you have. It always has to be about the lesson. When I ask a woman about her ex, I'm not asking her to tell me if she loves the guy still or things of that nature. You can kind of surmise that by how much they bring up a person like that. That's why I said don't bring your exes up. Only answer questions. Answer them thoroughly and completely. Hey, have contextual conversations, but never just bring them up and start talking about them. And never compare your ex to the new person, because that's weird and that's a little bit awkward. And it also tells me or tells the person in front of you that you're not necessarily moved on or all the way healed from your ex. But even so, when you bring them up, speak in context of what you've learned, how you've grown, how you've developed, and how you plan to move forward in a better place, right? So it's about the lessons you've learned. Sometimes people aren't asking how much you've been through, who did this to you, when you were a victim. Tell me about how you were victimized. Tell me about when you were preyed upon. People actually aren't asking that. They want to know how you developed and how you're better now than you were. How you will be better for them if you weren't your best then. That's really the subconscious concern and or the conscious concern of anyone asking about your exes. Men specifically, when they ask women about their exes, they're only sniffing around for how close are you with your ex? Do you still talk to him? Can he still hit it when he wants to if he puts some pressure on you? And will he be screwing you if I fall out with you or we're having a bad day? Will you be running back to your ex? Will I get cheated on? And will it be with your ex? Does he still have emotional access to you? Are you still in love with him? That's the subconscious concern with that question. It was really our conscious concern. It's the first thing on our mind. She might still be smashing the ex. He still might can pop up. In the same way, when women are asking about your relationships, they're not necessarily asking what was done to you. They're just trying to make sure that woman does not have power over you, that she can't interfere in the relationship, and that whatever you've learned, whatever bad habits you've formed or have been broken, you've healed from them, that trauma won't come back and affect them negatively. So that's what you speak to. You speak to what you've learned, how you've grown, how you will develop, and how you continue to develop in the future, and what you can offer her better as a result of your experience in the old relationship. So the details about the ex, the things she said, what she did, unless they're asking for those specific details, don't be divulging random things. Don't create scenes in her mind and images in her mind of you with another woman loving her, because when she doubts you, she'll think that maybe you're not over those more extreme and more passionate ideas that you shared about. So again, the focus is always your lessons, your growth, not what was done, how much you love them, and why you put up with stuff. And that goes for men and women, but I'm talking to Mark right now, or people who can relate to him, which could be anybody. So to your question of when is the right time to break up a breakup? The right time is when it's in context or when it's answering a question that someone is asking you about your exes or about your relationship experience. How much detail is too much? I think the details that give her a mental image in her mind is going to be a little bit too much. You don't want to speak about the person. You want to speak about the idea. You want to speak about the lesson. If he asks or she asks what specifically was said, what specifically was done, what specifically led to that lesson, you can talk about it. But get in and get out of the details sooner than later. Because sometimes when we relive things, we do get emotional. We are affected. It can be observed that we're being touched by our emotion in a positive or negative way. So you don't want them to be seeing that level of passion for someone else while they're in front of you trying to figure out if you have something to offer them. To your question of how can I show that I've grown and I'm open to new experiences? Exactly like I just said. You focus on the growth. You focus on how you want to move forward with the new knowledge and the new energy and intention you're trying to usher into your love life. And you also reaffirm that through being very consistent in your actions. In one of my last videos, I spoke about the signs of emotional unavailability. You don't want to exhibit any of those signs. You want to appear to be sure about what you want from the specific woman you're dealing with. So be consistent, be available, and be steady. Navigating a transition from going from a long-term relationship and learning how to love a person, one specific person, for a long time, and then needing to transition into being single and then ultimately loving someone else and learning to love them differently than you loved the last person can be a monumental challenge, but it's not impossible. Focus on your personal growth. Focus on being different in ways that you could have been better in your last relationship. Focus on being the growth and being the healing that you needed in your last relationship. And keep an open mind about the experience that you hope to have. And never put a person in a position where they need to question whether or not you're still in love with the ex. So when at all possible, limit how many details you give about the specific person, the human being that your ex was. Focus mainly on the ideals and the philosophies built as a result of the experience. Speak to the wisdom that you've gained, not the pain you've endured, more often than not. And that's how you navigate this transition. Even so, if you're dating and you're still trying to figure out how to stop wasting time, please try gone chatting. It makes dating online a whole lot more efficient. There's no wasted times in the DMs. You like, match, and video date immediately when you find somebody that you're attracted to. You can double check that attraction on video call instead of just looking at pictures that can be a little bit misleading. And our AI technology has nudity detection, so people who like to expose themselves will be removed from our app immediately. Give it a try today. Help us reach our first 10,000 users. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Follow me at Catfishing24 on Instagram.com. Send your questions there to my DM. If you need personal coaching, book a call. I'll get with y'all later.